Will we ever get to the actual episode? Tell me more, Chad.
Yeah.
Surprise.
I got that sass, man.
Some seriously dark shit lurking under the surface.
Well, he's fucking great, so whatever.
Does that count as a death if I want you to die?
Are you molding a squirrel out of C4 as we speak?
Pretty neat. That was neat.
No.
Broadcasting live from inside the power band, this is The Blah. In this episode, everybody dies. I'm your Horst.
I'm the worst.
The Wolverine, along with our energetic friend, Yar Higo.
Hey.
And the always positive C-Lab forever.
I thought it was Sassy Orange Swirl.
And with the always positive Orange Sassy Swirl.
That's the worst name ever. What's up?
It's the best name ever, and I had that actually written in my notes to say, and I already forgot.
You blew it already, an early death.
Folks, welcome to the podcast. This week we are revisiting the world of The Boys. Season 2 is released on Amazon Prime. For some reason, they're doing it like network show, so we only got episodes 1 through 4. So we're going to be doing Season 2, Part 1 today. One of you want to take that?
So high level on The Boys. What do y'all think? First 4 episodes, Season 2. Do you have a Penic erection?
I was going to say Penic level 2 on this. Somebody's laughing. You can't tell who it is.
Penic level 2. Yes, Penic level 2 as well.
Yeah? Yeah, I think same. I'm not overly enamored with this season, and I was very, very enamored with the first season. I'm not hating on it, but I'm just, it's very wishy-washy. It's nowhere near as tight, I should say. That's my, ultra high level.
I agree. There's I mean, it's just there's plenty to talk about here. Before we go any further, Chad, this is not a derailment. I would just like to congratulate Zarhigo on, as I went through the edit on the Zardoz episode, I really feel like your Sean Connery impression is
it's pretty legit.
Excellent. It is really good. And every time I listened to it, which was many during the edit, I was almost convinced that it was Sean Connery and not my old friend Ben Higo. So
wow, that's high praise. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, dude. Grats to you, man. That was pretty kick-ass.
And, to be fair again to you here, Kev, this isn't off topic because Sean Connery's branded Chuck Connors was born in The Boys episode that we made for this show.
If he ripped all of his clothes off but kept the long leather coat and with the beard, the scruffy beard, total porn matrix. The only thing would be he would have to have on is a pair of high top Chuck Connors or something.
I'm trying to figure out what a Chuck Connor would be.
It's a pair of Converse All-Stars.
Well, the Chuck Taylors.
Sorry, Chuck Taylors. Holy shit, I just died twice again. Wow.
You died again. The only thing that I could think of was a Sean Connery, Chuck Taylor kind of crossover where they do a sponsor, a collab.
Did you say Sean Connery or Chuck Woolery?
A Sean Connery, Chuck Woolery collaboration to create the ultimate Converse.
Oh my god. Converse All-Stars. Those are some nice shoes, Chuck. Do they make them for men? That's right.
One of my notes for this episode was that note from that other episode.
Chuck Connors, dude. That was one of my favorites.
So far, our episode is mostly hearkening back to previous episodes.
Folks, will we ever get to the actual episode? Let's find out.
Yeah, level 2 isn't really... Jesus Christ. I will not go to level 2 with you. Okay, I got it out of my system.
This is the messiest first 5 minutes of an episode ever.
Level 2 is not really a criticism. I don't really know where the story is going yet. And, I'm enjoying the season well enough. And, I'm kind of viewing it as it's basically more of the same. Kind of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I'm not really seeing any wild departures from the first season. So, yeah, I'm curious to see where it's going. I'm not hating it. I don't know if I'm going to end up liking it as much as the first season, but it might just be because the first season was like the first time I was introduced to this universe. And, this is, I made a note in my, I think this season should be called The Further Adventures of Stock Raven and the Gang.
Nice. I like that. Yeah, it's the response. He kind of gave the response, Chad, that I was going to give you. Or Ben just touched on it. It's that it's the second season, so it's not that it's not tight. It's just that the wow factor of the first season, meaning the first time we're introduced to this content, is over. And you were a reader of the comic books. You talked about how different they were and how that the television program was much better. And I think that it was, and we were hyped about it. Everybody was hyped about it. I mean, I heard from every single person I talked to that watched this last year said it was incredible, and I think, so I don't think it's so much that the second season is bad. I just think that it's like, it's like you come out of the gate and like everybody gets high on it. And then it's like, season 2, it's like, okay, we've come down and, unless you do something really incredible in a second season of any television show, it's going to kind of feel that way. I think we had the same feeling on The Expanse. I'm trying to think what else we did that had multiple parts. I don't know. I think The Expanse was the biggest one we've done. So at any rate, that's that's what I think about that. Tell me more, Chad.
Chad, I will add that the story does seem less focused so far this season.
Yeah.
It's kind of in a bunch of different directions, and I'm not sure how they're going to tie it all together, or even if it is, I mean, maybe at this point, the first season is an introduction, and then the rest of this is like kind of more episodic or more of like a continuation story, like a, ever evolving story where
Maybe.
like we're going to get to the end of the season. There's going to still be some loose ends and stuff that we need to wait until the next season for. I hope not, but yeah, it does seem less focused.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like this is pure speculation, but I feel like it's reasonable to assume Amazon's pushing them to make multiple seasons. It wouldn't surprise me at all if they wanted to make 2 or 3 seasons and call it a deal, and Amazon's like, oh, no, we're going to be making 6 seasons. You know what I mean? I hope that's not the case, but it wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah. Like Amazon has the opposite problem as Netflix. Like they're trying to like resuscitate and keep series going longer than they need to be, where Netflix is like constantly cutting them off short.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I remember seeing an interview with whatever the dude was that did Lost, saying that the studio wanted them to make like fucking 10 seasons or 15 seasons, and they were just like, whoa, dude, we were thinking about wrapping this thing up like way sooner, and they settled on whatever it was, 6. And it wouldn't surprise me if it was something similar, where Amazon hasn't really found its Game of Thrones yet, and we've spoken in previous episodes about how Bezos wants a Game of Thrones-like franchise, and I hope that that's not what's happening here, because I feel like this could have been a real tight couple of seasons. But if they have this season as an episodic thing, like you said, Benny, or if they have this as a setup for season 3 and it's just kind of a whatever season, I'm not super pumped on that. And the looseness of it is just kind of so far the only kind of major disappointment for me. I just feel like season 1 was just super crisp and sharp and tight, and every plot point and interaction had purpose, and I feel like there could have been a bunch of shit cut out of this.
Okay, a quick note on that Amazon comment you guys made. I think looking for the next Game of Thrones is a really bad idea. It should just be about making great content. If something hits and blows up, great. If it doesn't,
yeah, agreed.
I don't understand this ridiculous mentality. I mean, whatever, it's a business mentality. So, but that's really hard to apply to creative work. So at any rate, I know what you're saying, Chad, but I think that the sort of natural progression of the story is that it would be all over the place. So, if we think back to the end of the first season, it's like Madeline gets her freaking brain melted by Homelander, and then the C4. So she's like completely destroyed. Billy gets, dropped off by Homelander on his wife's front lawn. Surprise! They're all wanted fugitives. Huey's lost everything. His dad, his girlfriend, his job, mother's milk, ditto. Frenchie, he's still kind of doing what he was always doing. But I think that that's how it should be. So I could posit that it is exactly right where it should be. And it should feel that way because that's where they're at. It's like at this point in episode 1, we don't even know where Billy is. Like, I didn't even know. Like, watching it, I was like, is he even alive? Like, what is going on? I mean, I knew he was alive, obviously. He's going to be back, for the second season. But it's just like we don't have any idea. Like, they were scattered to the wind, essentially, is the short way of saying it, So it's like the fact that it has a weird feel like that in the beginning, and it's going to take a little bit of time for everybody to kind of glue back together and then figure out the next direction. Really, when I think about it, seems exactly right. So I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there.
Undoubtedly, they've started off in the right place. Just not sure. Like, it just feels like there's. I mean, I don't know what the main story arc is.
Yeah.
There seems to be a bunch of them now. There's Huey and Annie. Exposing Vought for Compound V. There's Stormfront, seemingly trying to sort of take over the Seven from, sneakily from, behind the scenes, sort of. There's, Kimiko and her brother, finding her brother and all that. There's like a lot of different threads, and I'm not sure where it's going just yet. I mean, it could come together beautifully.
Hopefully.
I don't know. That's why I'm at level 2 right now, because I just don't know. For me, my enjoyment is coming out of the little details of the series right now. It's less about like what's actually happening and how they're dealing with what's happening.
Just to bolster that thought further, like you really need to walk into something like this with an empty head, because if you start setting expectations and you start setting your bar, you're invariably going to be disappointed. So, walking into it, not expecting anything is really the way to do it. That is not what I did, but that's what I should have done, was taken my own advice and done that, and Ben's comment just reminded me of that, and again, we don't really know what's going to happen. I think we're all a little bit gun shy and scarred from Westworld season 3, to be honest. Like, same eight episode format, just like this one. I don't remember if it came out when COVID was going on still or not, but I know we were all pretty pumped at the end of episode 4, and then we all were pretty damn disappointed at the end of episode 8. So I'm hopeful that this will be better. I think it will be, and really want it to be.
I don't think it will be, but I hope to be proven wrong. I really do. I really do hope to be proven wrong.
Ladies and gentlemen, Orange Sassy Swirl.
I got that sass, man.
Dude, kid.
I've got one more comment on the high level that came based on listening to our previous episodes, where one of the really poignant thoughts that was brought to the table was by Benny saying how scary he found Homelander in season 1, and I feel like that's a major letdown in this. He isn't scary in this. And
I disagree.
He's become a bit more of a punching bag, and that might be by design in terms of the Stormfront kind of, eroding things from behind the scenes, et cetera, but I think has a different feel in this one than he did in season 1 to me, and I'm a bit let down by that.
Okay. Ben, what do you think about that?
I think I get what you're saying. They seem to be exposing a previously unknown vulnerable side, I guess, of Homelander. He seems to be like, I mean, insofar as somebody who's a total narcissist can be vulnerable, he seems to not be getting the attention that he needs. Now that Madeline is gone, I guess probably has a lot to do with it, and his like seeking to reconnect with his son and all that whole thing, like, sort of seems to make him weaker in general. But I don't know, man. I mean, when he fucking boxes Blind Spot's ears,
yeah, that was pretty.
It just like ruins the guy, like just to prove a point. That's like, I mean,
scary.
He pushes his son off a roof, like, I mean, he's still fucking scary. I don't know that I'm feeling that he is, so far he's seemingly weaker this season, but I still think that Anthony Starr is doing a great job. Homelander's interplay with Ashley is pretty fucking creepy. Like he makes it clear that he wants to be in charge, and he does that by taking out Blind Spot. And, just she's fucking wound up and totally freaked out this season because of him. So, there's an example of him being, his old menacing self.
Yep. That's fair.
Okay, so I echo a lot of what Ben says. I'm just going to try to add to it. He's scarier, in my opinion, in this season. Certainly in the beginning.
Really?
Okay, yeah. In the beginning, he's scarier, right? So it's like all of that stuff. Like when I was watching it, I was like, okay, so we already know what a total sociopathic, psychopathic narcissist this guy is, right? Raised by wolves, essentially, right? Raised in a lab, no mother to care for him. The whole like breast milk thing, the whole Madeline thing, just super creepy. This guy is creepy and scary. And I feel like in the beginning of this episode 1 of this season, he was as scary, if not scarier. And then I think what happens is, I think Ben was kind of skirting around, but what I was going to say is that he's starting to deconstruct, because what's happening to him is he's coming up against things that he doesn't have any defense against. And these things are unraveling him. You know what I mean? He can't just laser everything to death. Like that's sort of his thing, right? Like he's fairly manipulative, right? But really it's his incredible power, the laser beams and the flying and the physical strength and the invulnerability, whatever. Like he's like physically imposing, but he's coming up against things that he can't fight back against, that he has no defense against, that he has no superpower against. I'm doing a really shitty job of explaining this, but the best example, that's a great example. What'd you say?
No, that's good. That's good. That's a great way of
you feeling me?
Yep.
You're fleshing out what I was putting down there, and
exactly.
he's encountering obstacles that he doesn't have the tools to deal with.
Thank you. God damn it, my brain sucks this morning. So,
and he's kind of hit the ground running in this season. And
right.
He's off balance, and that in some ways does make him more scary, but I don't think we've seen that played out just yet.
Well, we haven't. Right. So exactly what Ben said. So he sort of articulated my thought a lot better than I could. So I think what's going to happen is that we're going to see him
along, and then I helped you along.
Exactly, man. This is how we do here on the EBD podcast. We're all about the love. I think he's going to get scarier as he comes more unraveled. Like I feel like there's like one thread out on the sweater right now. And as it starts to unravel more, he's going to get way scarier and likely self-destruct. I mean, typically people and characters do that when they're at this point, but who knows what's going to happen in the terms of the story. But I definitely think he's going to get scarier as he starts to unravel. And I definitely think he's beginning to unravel, and he's going to unravel more. The great example is like when he starts to visit the kid, right? And then he tells the kid to jump off the roof, and, the mom kind of freaks out for a second, and then he's like, he's fine. And then the kid like freaks out and his eyes start glowing, and he's just like, fuck you. I hate you. Like, get out of here. Like, I'm not you. I don't want to do this. I don't really even want to be a superhero, So like, those are things that like he can't contend with. Like Ben said, he doesn't have the tools to deal with those things, right? So it's like, what do? It's like you're so fascinated and really intrigued from like a childlike level of like this kid that is your kid, right? And this is from a person who has grown in a lab and raised by a corporation that marketed him his entire life. I mean, it's just, he doesn't know what to do, right? So the kid says, fuck you, and tells him to go F off. He's like, that's damaging to his psyche. He doesn't know how to deal with that because he doesn't have those tools. And then, ditto with Stan Edgar. It's like he goes in and he's like, yeah, I don't like this, I don't like that. And Edgar's like, yeah, you know what? We're not really in the superhero business, bro. We're in the pharmaceutical business. And you're way more irrelevant than you think you are. And you can see his cage getting visibly rattled when that's going on in that whole exchange. And so that's where you get like somebody like this grasping for straws, like what he's doing with Ashley, and all of that sort of thing. And then Stormfront comes in. So this is like example number 3, and she does essentially the same thing. And then when he confronts her about it, she kind of re-ups on that. So I think that like what's happening with Homelander is super interesting. And I cannot say enough about the quality of Anthony Starr's acting. It is just fucking stellar. I don't know. So what do you think about that response that me and Ben gave you, Chad? I mean, are you feeling that or what?
Yeah, I think my initial frustration with the wishy-washiness of Homelander as the season has developed, is clearly developing into him, becoming either unhinged or it's like a setup for sure. Like, I get it. I didn't really take the Ashley thing and the smacking of that guy in the ears thing too seriously, but the way that you guys framed it, yes, it is good examples of that same level of psychopathy and whatnot. I suppose I just was coming at it from the there's no airplane moment, or there's no blasting a fucking private jet at the end of episode 1, season 1 with a child waving at you from the window moment. So I think I was just coming at it from a different place, but I do think that you both provided good examples of why he's still quite
Scary.
Yeah.
And I just think that Ben's example of the blind superhero, that was the airplane moment. So far.
Yeah. I guess it was a bit of a throwaway comment in terms of a first general feeling that Homelander isn't scary, but the not as tight stuff I think tied into that for me, where my initial thinking up front is you could have cut Ashley completely, you could have cut Stormfront completely, you could have cut Gecko completely, and it would have just made more room for the main story. And I can explain all that later, and I'm not discounting Ashley and the actress that plays Ashley. She's great. But as we go through the first 4 episodes, I can kind of explain that in a bit more detail. I don't feel like going further down this particular mine shaft is a good use of time right now. So I think jumping into another character would make some sense.
It sounds like your reading of the comics has sort of colored your view a little bit here, because maybe you have a better idea of where the story is going.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, the comics don't cover a lot of ground in terms of story. Season 1 of the show would easily get you halfway through the actual totality of the story of the comics. So there's not a hell of a long way to go necessarily, but
okay.
Wow. Okay.
But we don't need to dive into her right now, but Stormfront is a good example of a difference where Stormfront is a full-blown fucking Nazi and is played by a dude and is part of a secondary group of heroes in the comic and has no real relevance. She's full-blown fucking swastika, or he's a full-blown swastika armband Nazi that Hitler tried to kill. Ridiculousness. So the character Stormfront is there. It's just, I guess, a frustration, which may or may not be valid, is we're spending a bunch of time on Stormfront, who in my opinion is being set up to be maybe the character that dies in season 2, the sub-villain, because Homelander's not going to get his comeuppance in season 2, and season 2 needs a villain, and she's it. But I'd rather find out more about the characters that were all left with threads hanging in season 1, so I don't know. I'm having a hard time kind of expressing why I feel as though it's not tight, but that's an attempt at explaining it.
Oh, you just explained it. I got it.
We can take that segue and jump into characters. On what do you guys think about Stormfront as the new character?
I don't have a ton of notes on Stormfront. I feel like she is 50-50 with the quips. One comment that stuck out to me was Pippi Longstocking would bite a D. That was a good one. I liked that. But sometimes she wasn't hit. I don't know. She seems to be pretty fucking racist.
Yeah.
Huh? That seems to be something that's driving her. And I had ascertained that before we find out about the woman who has since aged, whose brother was killed by her.
Yeah.
Back in the day. But, she I kind of got it where she fucking is hunting down Miko and her brother, and she just blasts them into that apartment complex, which is seemingly in a predominantly black neighborhood, but she's just destroying the fucking apartment complex. And she runs across a guy in the stairway and just throws him out the fucking window for no apparent reason. So I kind of picked up on it at that point, but so maybe she's not a Nazi, but is sort of I don't know, a heavy duty racist.
Well, coming from being clearly a character that has some sort of slow aging situation going on and as a side effect of her superpowers, obviously. She's definitely a racist. What's great about her and the actress that's playing her is that there's you start to feel, certainly by episode 4, maybe 3, that there is some seriously dark shit lurking under the surface. I think part of that's with the reveal of her being Liberty, obviously, but you can kind of sense that darkness lurking underneath. Like at first I was kind of like, oh, she's just kind of like a younger, like all over social media, blah, 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 like kind of thing.
Right.
But then
It's like, with the social media stuff.
yeah, exactly. But then as you go, like there's a really interesting kind of unfolding of this character happening. It's like you start thinking one thing and then the way that she talks to everybody and the conversations she has with Starlight, and then as a little bit more is revealed, like it just adds like layers, facets really to this gem of a character.
I saw in passing somewhere that somebody was like, oh, Stormfront is way worse than Homelander. And I was like, I don't know, I'm not seeing it. And, it's slowly exposing itself.
Yeah. I'm not sure how I feel about that, but
I don't know either. I think they're both probably going to be pretty awful in their own special, unique ways. She's clearly much older, so.
yeah, I just don't get what that does the story, like we've already got Homelander. We don't need another Homelander. And, we've already got Starlight. We don't need another person pushing the same agenda. Like, I feel like at the writing of her, not the actor or the character, but just the writing of her is taking part of Homelander away from him and part of Starlight away from her, as opposed to like focusing on Starlight and Homelander. I don't quite understand the placement of her.
Because I don't think that's the locus. Like, I think that, oh shit, I think I just got it. I may have just gotten it. I was trying to figure out for the life of me why Raina kept saying right before her head exploded, like, oh, it's a coup from the inside at Vote, or right? Vote. Did I say that right? Vought. Jesus, that's a death.
Vote.
Anyway, to finish my thought, that she keeps saying like it's a coup from the inside at Vought, and I think that's what's happening with Stormfront. Like when she first said it, I didn't see it. I was like, no, because I was thinking like an employee from the inside, and then like you had Gecko stealing the Compound V and all that sort of stuff. It's like it's a coup from the inside, and then now I'm thinking / positing that she could be the coup from the inside. Now she's there, especially after that whole thing that spiel she gives to Homelander about like social media and I have soldiers, you have followers, blah blah blah. Like, there's something going on there. It may be a coup from the inside, but I feel like she's trying to take the whole thing over. You guys feeling me or what?
Yeah. I'm not sure what her motivation is. I know what she's trying to do. I just don't know like why. I don't know what's happening yet. Does that make any sense?
Yes, it makes a lot of sense. I think that's the beauty of it. Doing like the part one of these seasons is that we don't know. So, we can come up with theories and speculate and posit various different things.
I was kind of hoping that Giancarlo Esposito's character was bringing Stormfront into the Seven as a plant to undermine Homelander and weaken him and just kind of like distract the Seven and get them out of the fucking way so that they can push their pharmaceutical agenda with the U.S. military. That was my hope, but
Chad, if I can jump in for 2 seconds, that's my theory number 2 on coup from the inside, going off what Raina said, that Stan Edgar brought her in as a plant to help him kind of dismantle what was going on from the inside.
Yeah. And, it seems pretty clear that Esposito's character doesn't give a shit about the Seven because it's not the focus, and that like dressing down of Homelander in the executive suite was a really great clarifying moment for like what Vought actually cares about. And like they don't give a shit about all the movies. They don't give a shit about the Seven or the collateral damage. They're just trying to get the pharmaceuticals into the government, like into the military. That's where the money's at for them. So bringing Stormfront in as a plant to kind of keep them distracted or just keep them out of the way is a better use for the Stormfront character, regardless of whether they're a Nazi or a man or a woman or whatever. And I feel like having that character focused as a plant would have been a better use of the character, as opposed to a person focused as a plant and, taking away from Homelander and taking away from Starlight. So I guess it was just kind of like a little bit muddy, I suppose. Because I feel like Starlight's is practically a fucking non-character this season. She doesn't really do or say much of anything. Like, she's gathering a bit more strength, but she was such a badass in season 1. She was such an awesome character arc in season 1 that she hasn't had any attention really this season. Just kind of found it a missed opportunity.
I don't know, man. I don't know if I agree with that. Like, about Starlight. I think she's had a ton of face time. We're sort of just, again, we're seeing season 2 should not be a carbon copy of season 1, and in really any show. And I think that we're seeing the kind of the next phase, next level, whatever. I mean, she went through deep whipping it out and being like, suck it if you want to be in the 7, and, you know, all of the things that she went through in the first one, you know, hooking up with Huey, and then he lies to her, and it's like, we're seeing a lot of the aftermath from that. You know, she was so starry-eyed in the first one. Yep. And now she's really...
I want you to die. Does that count as a death if I want you to die?
Yeah. It can be a new category. Why, you didn't like that pun? Love that, man. All right. Homicide. That's a new category. Murder, death, kill right there. Anyway, so I think that she was starry-eyed in the first season, and now she's seen the way it really is. You know, it's very much the same journey that I think almost everybody goes on or a lot of people go on when they're, you know, sort of getting out of high school and they're, you know, getting into the world. And it's like you think the world is one way, and then you get out in it and you're like, oh, wow, this is fucked up. You know what I mean? So I think she had that. Like, it was like, oh, she's in the 7 and all that. Then it's like deep, and like she sees the way that it really is and how horrible it is. And then now it's like, you know, the kind of the aftermath of that. And now she's actively trying to get the Compound V to expose Vought.
Yeah, I mean,
and help Huey, who she's really struggling with because she was really hurt by him lying to her, you know? So I still feel like there was a good amount of Starlight, and we still got 4 episodes to see more of Starlight. And yeah, I agree. She's a great character.
Yeah, I think she has an important arc in this season. She went through everything she went through to try and take Vought down by exposing them for using Compound V on kids. And at the midpoint of the season, this has not had the effect that we would, you know, or that she and Huey would hope it would have. It seems like they kind of, you know, took some heat for a minute, and then, you know, Giancarlo Esposito sort of managed to, like, you know, redirect and slough it off. So it's just not having, thus far, that plan didn't pan out. So, you know, I think we'll see what's going to happen going forward. There was the fucked up moment where Homelander confronts her in the elevator, and the hitherto unknown move of the ovary poke was brought forth.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah. I'm not sure where that's going, because she totally convinced him that she hates Huey. And then, you know, literally the next thing, she's on a road trip with Huey and Mother's Milk. So,
yeah.
I don't know. I think it's, you know, we're yet to see.
Playing both sides.
Yeah. We're yet to see what's really going on.
Yeah, I suppose, you know, I think I spent a bit of time thinking about this before the episode, but it's pretty clear that the thought is not fully formed, because I am not communicating properly what my issues are with this. I think really my biggest frustration is the Stormfront interaction with Starlight. You know, like, Starlight is the new kid who everyone thinks is a goody two-shoes, because she kind of is. And, you know, she has exactly what you just described as the arc of, like, she went through some shit with the Deep. Now she wants to take down Vought. She got the Huey thing. Yep, totally. Huey lied to her. Yep, totally on board with that. And then Stormfront comes in and is just like, you know, you're the fucking Vought girl. You know, stop being such a fucking corporate shill. Fuck you. And it's just like, it just detracts from the arc. You know, like, it's just a pointless fucking detraction, I guess. And that was where there was just like it just seems like there's a lot of wasted time in this. I'd rather spend more time with Starlight and more time with them, but I'm just beating the same dead horse.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's fair. And she does seem to have, like, her reaction, her confidence level seems to be sort of all over the place. Like, you know, she seems to kind of, even though technically Stormfront is the new kid on the block, she seems to sort of demur to Stormfront. Yet at the same time, like, there's this game going on with her and A-Train.
Yeah.
And, you know, she sort of finds her feet with A-Train and tells him what the fuck is up, puts him in his place. So she's a little wishy-washy, I guess.
Right, but I think that's because this is operating in that way in reality is not her wheelhouse. That's not where she came from. So she's had to learn all of this stuff since she joined the 7, since the first season. So now we're seeing her actually having to execute that stuff. Like, she's, you know, I mean, it's kind of interesting because she has followed her heart in a lot of the situations to do the right thing, like we saw at the end of season 1. But then she has to go and sort of try to be as manipulative as everybody else in the 7 to kind of further her own agenda of kind of taking it down. So that's not really her wheelhouse. So she's learning how to do that. And I think that's where that wishy-washiness comes from, you know. She's like trying to work A-Train and, you know, kind of stumbling as she's doing it. So I think we're seeing, you know, again, everything seems pretty normal.
That's fair.
In terms of what they're doing, you know what I mean? Natural progression, I guess, is what I'm saying, you know? So,
but the wishy-washy example, I think, is, I agree with you, Kev. Like, I do think it's realistic. I suppose, like, where we left off in episode 4 with kind of like, we'll get to it later, but Butcher and Becca and then Huey and Starlight, I just found it so odd that they would pull the same old hero loses everything bullshit trope with both Butcher and Huey in terms of they both lose their partners. And Starlight's like, oh, I'm so hurt, and then ends up on a road trip and then ends up in a bed and then says goodbye, Huey, forever. You know, like, it just seemed so fucking pointless. Like, why go on the road trip, you know? Clearly they're going to probably have the, like, everyone's back to fucking together and everyone's in love, same old, but I think wishy-washy is a great way to describe some of the writing decisions in some of the character arcs.
That I can get down with more.
It's got to come back in some way, and they're going to obviously change it, but where we are in episode 4, I just kind of left with a bit of a shrug.
Fair enough. I mean, look, I set this show at Penic level 2, right? So that means that, like, I'm not super stoked. Jesus. But as I talk about it more, I'm slightly more stoked because I'm discovering things as I'm saying them and as I'm listening to you guys. So a lot of the stuff that I've said in this episode, I really thought of like 80% of that as we were talking. Like, going into it, I was like, well, you know, the music was underwhelming and this was underwhelming. And, you know, I don't think that there's anything wrong with what they're doing in season 2. I feel like it is, in fact, the very natural progression of how the story would go after like a major events at the end of season 1. And we're obviously building back up to something else. I'm already feeling like 8 episodes is going to be too little time to tell the story. And I was complaining about that a lot with Westworld and I think on Watchmen as well.
And maybe that's part of my frustration with the potential lack of a tight story or wishy-washiness is like, I know there's only 4 more and it's like, it's going to be hard to pull this off. Why didn't you just fucking get focused? But
well, fair enough. But we don't, but this show, look, hold that thought for 1 second, Ben. Like, this show has a great track record and the cast is great. The writing was great first season. So we don't know what's going to happen. So I am reserving judgment on stuff like that for after the last 4 episodes. Fair. I think is where I'm at. You know, with Westworld, I don't know, as forgiving.
I'm more on the Westworld motorcycle. I'm more on the, like,
yeah.
Westworld season 1 was a fucking masterpiece and it was downhill from there. And I really hope that's not the case here, but it's not going to be overly surprising if it is. That's, I guess, I'm being a bit more cynical about it.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's hope for this season gaining focus because it seems like a lot of the little subplot lines are at this point wrapping themselves up. Right. I mean, at this point, Huey and Annie have like hooked up, but she kind of lets him down. You know, when they get back, she's like, we can't do this because it's too dangerous, you know? So that's sort of like, all right, that seems like it's achieved some closure. At this point, Billy Butcher has found his wife and she's let him down. So there's some closure there, you know, like a lot of those little subplots, like, you know, or even
Kimiko?
Yes, Kimiko, her brother has died at this point, and that sort of opened up like a revenge plot towards Stormfront, but it sort of closed that arc as well. So it seems like some of these things are starting to, like, you know, Homelander's been rejected by his son, you know, like, so maybe things are going to start to get more focused in the second half of the season.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's, you know, in my view, we'll get into predictions later, but like, I feel like it's going to have to get focused and it'll probably be mainly focused on Homelander going off the rails, you know, but, the Billy Butcher one is interesting in particular because Billy Butcher's wife, Becca, doesn't live in the comic, which we talked about in the other episode, and so they kind of painted themselves into an interesting corner in the show where like they had to address that, and it's an interesting way that they chose to address it by having him, on a side mission, which has been resolved in the negative in episode 4. So it's a tough one, because if it's like, as the creator of the show, if you write that he doesn't find her for the whole season, he's just going to spend the whole season looking for her. He's not going to give a fuck about anything but her. So you have to kind of tie it off in a way.
Yeah, but I think that was approached well.
Yeah. Considering what they had to deal with, it wasn't approached poorly. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, there's no boys without Billy Butcher. So Billy Butcher, rides off into the sunset with the love of his life. The fucking show's over.
Yeah.
So they had to do something, and I think it was handled quite well. And I felt it, like I could feel for. It made sense. Like I got it.
It makes perfect sense that he would have issues with his soup stepson.
Yeah, and also that his wife's name is escaping me, but also that she would decide to go the direction that she did. And it was good that they made it clear that they wanted to be together, but they couldn't because of the situation. So I think that's as good as it gets. And I definitely felt like it kind of hit me in the feels a little bit, that whole thing.
And some really solid acting by Shantel VanSanten on that last scene when she drives away in the car, just bawling her freaking face off. I was like, wow, that's pretty tight.
Absolutely.
I don't know. This is like a very, very minor cul-de-sac, but I don't know if you guys have seen For All Mankind, the Apple sci-fi Russians Land on the Moon First show. But she's one of the stars of that, and holy mother of Jesus, she's a fucking good actress. So, yeah, I feel you on the acting in that one, for sure.
Yeah, she's excellent throughout. I don't mean to downplay her by forgetting the character's name.
No, not at all. We're lucky that I didn't mispronounce her fucking name. Kev, do you have any thoughts on the Billy Butcher thing? You barely touched on it before I interrupted you.
I know that fucking groundhog was like destroying my plants. I got distracted by that. That's an injection death of like an epic proportion, really. Insert Kev
Nobody
is dying
about
again.
me.
That's right, Betty.
Why
go for
you
it,
got
man.
to give me a fight?
No, I deserve it, dude. Shit all over me.
Be.
Take a big dump right on my head. It's fine.
Are you molding a squirrel out of C4 as we speak?
Here's a secondary death. I'm hitting spacebar thinking it's shift. Yeah, that's a good one. So I did catch a lot of that. I was mostly engaged. I like everything that you said. As Ben has often said to me, I don't really have a lot to add to that. Ben kind of said it all. I added what I added. The end, I think they wrapped that up nicely. And I agree with him about the whole Starlight thing too. Like how it was just like, we can't do that again, and it's like it all actually makes perfect logical sense. And it also creates great tension for the remainder of the show and this season. So, and I'm talking about Starlight specifically, but also really with Butcher and Becca too. And I really like the way that they wrapped that up. I thought it was good. It's like, because it is a stalemate. It's like, okay, well, you're not coming to live in the house, and we can't come with you with the kid. Like, he's $1 billion piece of property and blah, blah, blah. Ben already said it. I just thought they wrapped it up good, and I really thought she was fantastic in that last scene there.
And then I suppose you've got that little like last moment where Black Noir is sitting at the computer seeing Butcher at the facility there, so that's bound to be a big part of the next episode.
Oh, no doubt.
Alex, you're stinking up the kitchen with your stupid lasagna. I just want a coffee.
I had that more of like that like kind of cheesy PBS pledge drive kind of thing in my head, where it was like,
For $2.
here are some great ways to listen to this great podcast, but I'm not going to talk about that. Here's Chad.
Just like, thanks, Kevin.
No, and here to talk about that is Algorithm.
While you're off in space, traveling to the nearest ring gate, you could be donating to Everybody Dies podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
And for a pledge of just $1, you'll get this wonderful nothing burger.
Yeah, anyways, we just wanted to chime in and ask that you guys, if you guys like our show, please tell some friends about it. We're trying trying to grow the show and make it more awesome for you guys. So we would love it if you could to share us with a friend or jump onto iTunes and give us a rating or something, because it helps.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you pledge $2 to our Patreon, you'll get a sweet all edges lasagna pan. And we'll lose like $30 on that.
We're losing $15 on.
Yeah, exactly. You know what we should come up with as a merch item is a patch. You know, let's kick it 80s style, dude, right?
Oh, fuck yeah, like a space patch or something?
Yes.
Dude.
That's such a great idea.
Ben, I know you're all about patches, bro. So about a patch, man. I mean, again, we're dealing with the fallout from events from the first season. So there's a lot of like tension and a lot of brokenness going on. You know, the Huey-Billy relationship that was pretty damn solid in the first season, you know, got fractured. And so there's some stuff there. And it was just kind of interesting to see the gang kind of form up behind Huey a couple times and being like, dude, what's up? You're being a dick to Billy. You know, I really enjoyed that. That level of solidarity, you know, and I also like that Huey was working with Starlight kind of behind the scenes to get the Compound V situation out into the open, you know, and taking a huge risk doing it. But, you know, I thought that was pretty neat. That was neato.
It was super neato.
That was pretty neat.
It was swell, too.
What were your thoughts on Butcher, Benny?
It's no secret that I'm a Carl Urban fanboy, and I love him as this character, man. He's more Billy Butcher than he's ever been, with the mannerisms and the kind of half-baked, you know, quips, and it's great. He's great, man. One of my favorite Billy Butcher moments in this season isn't actually Carl Urban. It's the news report with the reenactment.
Oh, that was pretty good.
Oh my God, that was so goddamn funny.
That was one of my favorite moments of the entire season so far, really. But yeah, he's like, "Oi, shut your trap, you dumb bird, or else I'll bollocks ya."
Because they kept playing it over and over, so we got to see it so many times. I thought
it kept happening throughout the episode. Yeah, it's like the actor just does not get, like, you know, they're trying to make it like the actor just does not get, like, that the fact that, like, a Brit would call a woman a bird. So instead of saying, like, dumb bird, he says dumb bird. Like, it's one word. I don't know.
I thought it was Chris Evans at first, and I could totally see Chris Evans doing, like, a funny cameo like that. He's cool like that.
That would have been good, yeah. Oi, shut your trap, you dumb bird. Or else I'll bollocks ya.
Oh my God, the stupidest dialogue. I love it. I swear to God, he was saying dumb bat.
If you want to force another death, man, that's fine by me.
Force another death. How's that?
I watched it several times so I could write down the quote. I could be wrong because that's just what I had in my head, you know, like.
We should be careful. Otherwise, you're either going to be wrong in Diecab or you're going to eject for half an hour to prove it with the subtitles in the Amazon show and be dead again. So.
I don't have the wherewithal for either, Chad. So I'm going to leave it. I'm going to let the sleeping dog lie because I think that we don't have the time for me to eject for half an hour.
That's I'm down with Butcher across the board. My only frustration isn't necessarily with Butcher, but it's like the unnecessary tension between Butcher and Huey, which has a reason in the comic, but doesn't really have a reason in the show. Like, it's not spoiling anything to say that, like, Butcher basically doesn't allow or want Huey to ever speak to Starlight, which he kind of made clear early on in season 1, and essentially, like, literally cockblocks Huey every step of the way and intentionally treats Huey like shit in order to cockblock Huey, basically. And that doesn't happen at all in this, so that there's, like, no real need for the tension, and I just found him treating Huey like shit for multiple episodes with no reason, just kind of, like, pointless, I guess. So I'm not sure if you guys picked up on the tension between the two of them, but, I mean, it was pretty obvious, I thought. But
yeah, but wasn't it from what he did in season 1?
Right, I was going to say, it was established in season 1, that tension.
And then he apologizes for it in, like, the second episode.
Yeah. I appreciate what you guys are saying in terms of the other boys coming to Huey's rescue in the sense of being like, hey, Butcher, fuck off. But, like, I just didn't see the point, I guess.
See the point of the tension?
Yeah, I just was like, fucking on with the show, you know?
Well, I know, but I think the tension was there from the end of the first season, and I think that if you, I understand where you're at, and if you had just erased it, you know, like I could see a strong case of people being like, "Well, what's up with that? Like that went nowhere. Why did that? You know what I mean?" I could totally see people saying that. Somebody's saying that, possibly even one of us. Hey,
possibly even me.
So-
but I'm down with Butcher in general.
yeah.
I think he's great.
Yeah.
So.
I think they're trying to play up what Mother's Milk so poignantly put, that, you know, Huey is Billy's canary. And by the way, I would like to get into Mother's Milk some, especially the fucking Vermont dollhouse.
Same.
But he has some really great, like, wise shit and some great, like, anecdotes that he does in this season.
Yeah, he's great.
But anyways, yeah, I was more referring to his astute observation that Huey is Billy's canary. So,
and what do you mean by that? Like, I didn't really pick up on what that really meant. Was whether he crosses the line?
Can I take this, Ben?
yes.
What he means is that Huey he's a good guy, right? And he's like Billy's moral compass, to put it super short. And that's how Billy kind of navigates from warpath, as his wife put it, to, you know, his heart, I guess you could say.
But don't you feel like he's already crossed the line multiple times?
No, it's not about that. It's yes, he has. He's absolutely crossed the line. That Huey is somewhat of his compass of where to go, when to go, how far to go, when to come back. Right, Ben? Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, there's a balance at play there, and even directly with the group will seem to sort of, you know, when they need Billy, they need Billy. But if Billy wants to do something, Huey will speak up about it, where the rest of them would probably just go along. You know, if he's doing something that the group doesn't agree with, it seems like the rest of them will just sort of go along with him most of the time. But Huey sort of seems to be the one to, like, speak up and say what everybody's thinking. So, you know, it's just like a balance in the group dynamic.
Yeah, that makes sense. And you're right. Milk throws down a lot of knowledge in this for sure. I really like where they're going with him in this. He's a great character that hasn't had a ton of time. It was really nice to see his opportunity for him to talk about his dad in episode 4. What are your thoughts, Benny?
It's really just, I guess, details that don't really matter. But, you know, I really enjoyed the conversation that he had with Starlight in the restaurant, and he tells a story about his dad in the ice cream shop, and, you know, like, just he has a lot of great little anecdotes and moments of wisdom in this season like that are just, you know, I think they're a great fleshing out of the character. He is like the mother of the group, sort of, you know?
Yeah, no doubt.
So it's just a further fleshing out of the character this season that I'm quite enamored with.
Yeah, it's exactly the kind of development I want to see, for sure. Yeah. It's funny, the mother thing. I hadn't thought of that, but, like, he's, like, literally the mother. Like, he practically, like, licks his fingers and, like, fixes their hair and shit with the, like, wet wipes for Starlight outside the diner and stuff. That was so funny.
Yeah, that was one of the things I had in my notes, was something about the you can't do a dry wipe.
What are you doing? Yeah. And I like the other little quip when they're driving and singing "We Didn't Start the Fire," and he's like, "I'm not your fucking chaperone." Like, it was super funny. Yeah, it's like it was perfectly encapsulated what you would feel like if you were sitting in his chair. It was great. I'm curious to see what they do with him. He was not overly developed in the comic, and so there's an opportunity to, or maybe I should say, he was not overly well developed in the comic, and so there's an opportunity to, like, do some really good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, out of any of the characters, I kind of, you know, I really hope he fucking gets out and manages to, you know, get back to his wife and his daughter. Like,
yeah,
you know, I think I don't think it would be a satisfying arc for his story for, like, something bad to happen to his, you know, wife or kids or, you know, whatever. Like, so I hope he, out of everyone, is able to just sort of get back to his life at some point.
Yeah, totally. And that's a great way to tie into the comic, where, like, his wife and kid are not really a part of his life in the comic. Like, the wife is a crackhead and forces the daughter to be a prostitute. Like, it's just the most fucking ridiculous stuff, you know?
Ugh, dark.
And, like, the daughter is, like, 18, you know, in the comic. So, like, it just is, like, they clearly saw it as a stupid thing that was not necessary, and brought in a more, you know, relatable arc of a person who might have done a bunch of fucked up stuff or keeps getting pulled back into fucked up situations, but still wants to be with his family and stuff. And so, yeah, I agree with you. I hope that it goes back to that, some sort of redemption.
I think that's the most satisfying of any outcomes I can muster.
Yeah. Who knows what they'll do with Huey and Billy, because clearly, for whatever reason, I mean, I guess it's an obvious enough reason, the show is focusing on the two of them as like the yin-yang of, masculinity and beta male trading roles.
Yeah.
Fucking their love lives have similar paths, blah, 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 blah. But Mother's Milk's way more relatable.
Yeah, absolutely.
We didn't talk about the dollhouse, though. You want to talk about the dollhouse?
It's always funny to see the big tough guy doing something like dainty for, his daughter. Sort of.
Yeah,
that was cool.
It was all right. I'm sort of already fatigued on that trope as well, but yeah, I'm with you. It was cute.
I feel like he's a bit of a tea kettle, though. Like, I feel like him carving a fucking chest of drawers for a dollhouse is the only reason he doesn't like grab one of the automatics in the basement of the Haitian gang and just like start shooting everybody. Like, it's clearly the only way he has to cope.
Yeah, they kind of show that where he explodes at Huey for maintaining contact with Starlight, and then sort of like gets the better of himself, like gains control. But I don't know if that makes any difference. But
no, you're right about that, Ben. They're right about that, and I think that he's a good character. I was just going to say that like the character writing for the show is really good. I really like all the characters. They have a really good mix of like flaws and heart. Like Milk, Frenchie, all of them really. I mean, I'm really just talking about the boys themselves.
Even Kimiko, really, with the complexities with her brother.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
totally. And just getting more of that backstory was just fantastic. A lot of cool stuff there. I was really bummed when her brother died. I was like, wait, what? No, kind of bummed me out. Where do we want to go next?
Frenchie and Kimiko, maybe.
In this season, I think Frenchie ought to give Madonna her 80s t-shirts back. You notice that he's always like, it's like cut off, so he's got like a beer midriff, and the whole like collar of the t-shirt is cut out. Like,
he's a funny dude, man.
It's like he should have been in a stunt double for her and Desperately Seeking Susan or something.
Yeah, that's how they rock it in France, Ben. I guess.
Or Who's That Girl?
There you go.
That is how they rock it in France, isn't it?
I like him and Kimiko. I think they're a great couple of side characters.
Definitely. I really like, good actor, great character, Frenchie. I'm not going to say much more than that.
Alrighty then.
Hasn't really been much of a focus, really, this season. Like, he's kind of a bit of a fucking mess by episode 4 with the Kimiko stuff. So hopefully they'll spend a bit more time on the two of them, in terms of the rest of the season. But who knows? I mean, I think it's pretty obvious they're going to set Kimiko up to take out Stormfront as revenge or whatever, but who knows? Maybe
now that they've resolved some of the other side threads, that they're gonna, seems like they're moving in the direction of playing that scenario out. Yeah, the Kimiko and Frenchie. Yeah, for sure. I thought it was interesting, for example, that like Homelander is sitting on a couch with Stillwell watching Taxi Driver, and him being like, "Oh, they have no respect." And then the last scene with Kimiko is essentially the taxi driver walking up to assassinate the dude at the podium Stormfront thing. Like, they're clearly hearkening to the Taxi Driver movie a bit there. But then again, Frenchie catches her, man. That's the great part about him. He's all passion, He's a great combination of like heart and passion, and being a bit of a maniac too. So, and then when he tries to kiss her, like, yes, like not the right move, bro. No, not the right time for sure, man. He's a bit of a mess. So is it time to talk about the predictions, theories, positations, as it were? Yeah, I think it makes sense. We're kind of already circling that a bit. So from my perspective so far, we've kind of covered my couple of predictions. One is Homelander going rogue seems to be the setup from his confrontation with Doppelganger at the end of episode 4. And, you guys both convinced me of his scariness in this season, leading to him going off the rails. So I feel like that's relatively risk-free prediction. And then it seems like Stormfront is the fodder for the season, like the sub-villain that dies in this season, which personally I find kind of boring, but it seems to be the setup. Yes, I agree with you. I don't really have a ton to add there. I think that... No. Go ahead, Ben. Oh, I'll wrap it all up. Maybe. I don't really have any predictions for this. I am not sure where they're going. So we'll see.
I'll echo that. I'm not sure where they're going, and I'm fine with that. I think that Stormfront Liberty is gearing up to be the sort of central villain of the season. Super villain, as Homelander keeps saying. And I'm very, very excited to see what happens to Homelander. So I'll leave it at that. Keep it short and sweet.
Word.
Pluses, minuses, episodes.
Do you guys have any notes on any of that stuff?
Let me start it off with the music, which I felt was underwhelming compared to the first season. I understand the Billy Joel thing with the girlfriend, and that's fine, but I just felt like we all specifically commented on that in season 1, like how great it was, because I listened to our episode on that this morning, and I just felt it wasn't as great, and it was kind of a bummer.
I really liked Pressure in the first episode, though. I thought that was great.
No, I definitely liked that, and I liked the Billy Joel tracks that they picked, but I felt like it was just all Billy Joel, and I was like, where's the rest, man? There was so much great music in the first one. You know, 80s, 90s, it was really cool.
Yeah, maybe we just haven't got there yet. I like the Billy Joel. I mean, they used Psycho Killer by Talking Heads at the end of episode 3, I think. You know, I mean, I don't have any problems yet. I have a hard time making a lot of like too many criticisms or praises because I don't really, you know, things are really like up in the air by episode 4 here. I could come down on one side or the other, but I'm not there yet. So who knows what awesome music they're going to have in the second half of the season, or, you know, maybe there won't be any music and therefore the information we have so far is all there is.
I am with you on that, Ben. It could be better for season 2. I really like your positive attitude about the second half of the season, Ben. I'm inspired by that.
On a slightly different tack, pluses in the plot for me, the Deep as a Scientologist, I'm digging, even though it's a complete distraction from the main thread. I just really like the idea of him going full Tom Cruise.
I did too.
Yeah, it seems likely. I think that's a good place for the character to go. He's still sort of the butt of the joke. I don't know how I felt about the whole Patton Oswalt as talking gills.
I liked Patton Oswalt was there, but it was a weird scene.
I like Patton Oswalt, but I don't know how I felt about, like, I just thought that was, I don't know, kind of dumb.
But it was like intentionally dumb, so that was probably why you don't know how you feel about it.
Yeah.
Well, same with Homelander and Doppelganger and Stillwell coming back. Like, I don't know how I feel about that either. It was fucking twisted, but
yeah, I'm glad. I'll say this much. I had a note like, "What? Stillwell's back?"
Yeah.
How the fuck did that happen?
At first, I was not into it, and then it was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm glad it resolved itself quickly.
Yeah, if that had even taken an additional episode to resolve, I would have been pretty pissed. I'm glad they didn't cliffhang that, but I hear you.
Yeah, exactly. I could not stop laughing when Stock Raven. I started thinking of Billy Butcher as Stock Raven because he kept saying, he said on 2 different occasions, but at one point he was like, "I'm not Stock Raven." It's like he's trying to say Stark raving, but it's like he misunderstands the quote or something. He's definitely actually saying Stock Raven. So the scene where Stock Raven, like, where it ties in with the Deep too, or the Deep is like the cavalry coming and he's riding the whale and he goes to block them off. Billy Butcher just like kind of gets a smirk on his face and fucking goes, pushes the throttle full forward,
guns it,
smashes into the whale. Like I love that.
And Deep's face when he saw what was going to happen was just so funny.
Yeah.
He's like
Yeah, absolutely. I rewound that scene a few times and laughed every time.
Yeah, that was good. That was a great bit. I liked that whole thing was great.
And Huey's just sitting in the carcass being like, "I'm done."
Yeah, it's like, you know what? I'm just going to stay here.
It was so ridiculous, but yeah.
Can't take any more. I had some more pluses and minuses. I'm just going to kind of read them off list-like.
Do it.
So we can kind of just keep it moving. Black Noir, it was great seeing a little bit more of him. I also thought that when he pulled that guy's upper and lower jaw and just ripped his head open was... We talked about the gore and the graphic violence in the first season that we did on this, so we don't need to rehash it. But again, just insane, like, violence, like just at a whole nother level. Like when he ripped that guy's jaw in half, I was like, good God, dude.
That's a great moment, a great example of the opposite of what we talked about in the other episodes, though, where we spoke about how the violence was relevant and useful to the storytelling, and that ripping the dude's jaw is not relevant nor useful to the story. So I think it's a good example of like wasn't necessary, but there are other elements of the violence, like the whale, for example, is like relevant enough or enough of a thing where it's like fine. Yeah, the ripping of the face was kind of dumb.
Sure, I already said the opening lunch was funny. I love that we find out what Milk's real first name is, Marvin. That was great. I love the vehicles, like the van they use, and then Milk's car when they go on the road trip. Like a lot of like dope 80s boats. Digging that.
The fucking, what was the boat called?
Something that gets it wet or something. No, I meant boats like land yachts, like big.
Yes,
like you know what I mean?
Yes.
Big classics, like a Chevy Impala type.
Yep.
What else did I have here? Deep at the water park in Sandusky, dude, was so great. It was such a bad Santa moment. Are you feeling me?
Yeah.
Like bad Santa being like all like drunk, like, yeah, you fucking you don't know shit. Like that was great, man. And then the cops are just like, yeah, it's time to go.
And he's drinking like really weird umbrella drinks at that bar before he gets cut off. Forget what they were.
Yeah, they
Kinda
were called
like
lava flows, I think, or something like that.
Like a pina colada, but yeah, lava something.
What was with the Fresca? I thought that was funny.
I don't know.
Fresca always makes me think of Caddyshack. I can't help it.
Yeah.
Don't know what was up with that.
So it's something to do with that Scientology cult.
Yeah.
That was interesting. Becca wanting the kid to be normal. It's kind of an interesting plot sort of element.
Makes sense in a way.
Makes a lot of sense, but just super interesting in the scope of like everything that's happening in this whole world of Vought and like all of that. I was like, how about that? When it clearly worked. I mean, the kid is like, I don't want to be a superhero. F off. Like, I think that was about all I had. I just thought the superheroes were just this season really accentuated how marketed and how completely just messed up they all are. Like. And I enjoyed that, and it was very disturbing as well, So yeah, those are my only other little highlights, lowlights.
Like a "Girls Get It Done" campaign.
Yeah. It just like
all that silliness and seeing Starlight have to like plow through all this shit and like and sort of a Stormfront sort of being like on point by sort of like having enough and being like it doesn't matter like. If you're competent at your job, then that's all that fucking matters. It doesn't matter if you have a dick or a vagina,
Absolutely.
Sort of pointing out that this is all just stupid hype bullshit,
Which would have been exactly the same scene would have been great with Starlight doing that, but I guess it's a little not in character for her.
Yeah, I think at that point she's trying to keep her head down a little bit because of what she's up to.
Yeah.
So she's pretending to like pull the line,
Yep. Do you guys have any thoughts on the Maeve and Elena Homelander outing her as a lesbian thing?
Snore. I hated the whole thing. I hated the girlfriend in the first season. I hated her as much in the second season. I just was like, this is so unnecessary.
Unless they spend more time with Maeve and like Maeve actually goes to the light side of the Force. Oh, fuck, I'm dead. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if Maeve actually gets an arc where she goes to the light side, like I'm on board, but she has been given so little screen time that who knows.
Yeah, and I think that's probably it. That she has so little screen time, and like I felt like the dynamic with the girlfriend in the season 1 was just dumb. I hated the way they set it up. It was just all of it was stupid, and it was sort of moving in a little bit better direction this time, but it was all just so cliche trope. I was like, get me out of here. I want to die.
Yeah.
I don't know. I maybe I'm being harsh. I don't know.
That's fair enough.
It
didn't go anywhere.
No, I kind of felt the same way. It does throw a little bit of, menacing backstory in for Homelander again, though, where, she sort of confesses that the reason she's been, trying to stay away is because she's afraid that Homelander's going to kill her.
Yeah. Yeah, she's not being heartless about it. She actually is trying to protect her. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I appreciated that, and I really dug the story. What I don't like is that in season 1, she was just like, Maeve, we're not doing this again. I can't do this, da 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 da. And then it's like, hey, my number was on your emergency contacts. And it's like, oh, okay, glad you're here. Hey, let's talk about this little statue and stuff. Like, ugh, barf, vomit, just get me out of here. I just was like, no, please, no.
I can see them setting Maeve up to be the roadblock to Homelander when he comes unwound. Maybe that's what it's all setting up.
Could be.
Like she actually steps in and slows him down or puts a stop to it or something.
Yeah. I mean, I'd love to see her beat him.
Yeah.
Beat him up.
I would also watch that.
Yeah, I think there's undoubtedly a conflict coming there. How it's going to unfold, no idea.
I think the only other kind of negative I've got is, and hopefully they spend some more time on it, is I find the VOT's military thing and the corporate stuff is way more interesting than a lot of what's been focused on so far. So I hope that they spend some more time on that because, one of the biggest pluses in the plot for me are the supers aren't the product and it's pharmaceuticals. I find that a really interesting thread.
What did you guys think about friend of the show, Giancarlo Esposito, showing up?
I love him. I feel like he's in everything. I could make a great argument that we've got Giancarlo fatigue, but I don't have any fatigue. He was in The Mandalorian. He's been in everything, man. Lately, I feel like he's popping up everywhere.
My initial reaction was like, oh my God, really? Like, he's in this too? But then I was like, yeah, well, he's fucking great, so whatever.
Yeah, and he killed that scene with Homelander.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, wow, holy shit, he's in this. And I was like, wait, wasn't he his character in that was Stillwell giving her a promotion? So I don't know if it was Esposito. It must have been. But there's like a 1-minute scene with her getting a promotion in season 1.
He had a super short scene in season 1.
I didn't remember that.
No, I didn't either, but I was like, I remembered her getting a promotion from the boss, and I was like, it must have been him, but I didn't specifically recall. But yeah, I was on board. I liked him. I think he did a great job. I think it's interesting how often these shows and movies, just like our, mini-sode on Dune, where we talked about how Oscar Isaac's in fucking everything, and what's his name? What's
Momoa?
Beast Rabin?
Bautista.
How Bautista's in everything, too. Rabin, whatever. It seems like everyone's in everything these fucking days. It's like, surely there's more than 10 actors out there.
And yet there's not.
One thing we didn't touch on at all is the A-Train thing. We don't need to go into any great detail, but I feel like he had a heart attack and now he just kind of like stands around panting and not fucking doing anything. It's kind of a weird character arc there.
I'm not a fan of A-Train. I don't know. Maybe me not liking the character is a testament to how good the acting is. We did touch on that in another episode about like how you were younger. You'd like, oh, I hate that guy. It's like, you don't hate that guy. You hate the character.
He did a good job.
Yeah, he did a really good job. So I guess I got a little bit of that going on with A-Train, but I don't know. Like he's annoying. Like he's supposed to be. He's annoying. He annoys me, and I guess it's a testament to the quality of the acting. And I don't know. I wish it's like. I also was kind of feeling like, would they just tie him up or not? I feel like they are, but it's like happening so slowly, and he didn't get a ton of screen time so far in season 2. And I don't know. It's just like, I don't know. I kind of feel like kill him off, send him away, or give him more. One or the other.
Yeah. Shit or get off the pot.
Thank you.
You get a good little peek into his motivation when he sort of he has that conversation with Starlight and he kind of checks her privilege, being like, you're killing the money. Like only somebody who came from money would do that. So you kind of
very true.
That gives you a little peek into who he is, really.
Absolutely, Ben.
On that, there's a really weird not behind the scenes. Like there's a really weird like interview thing on the extras where like a woman interviews a bunch of the cast and the creator, and like there's like some interesting stuff in the middle, and then there's just some really fucking weird stuff where like the interviewer is like asking if they want to die by laser eyes or by pop cloth sitting on their faces, and all like watching fucking Carl Urban be like, yeah, laser eyes, thanks. Like it's just a weird thing. But
what was this?
It's like on Prime there's like a extra.
I didn't bother watching any of those. I was like, yeah, no. I feel like those are going to be dumb.
You should check it out just for how fucking weird it is. But
Yeah, it sounds like, I don't know.
there's a scene, or there's a question asked of the A-Train actor, who I don't know his name, I apologize, talking to him about A-Train and A-Train's motivations, and he does say that A-Train came up from nothing, and one of his biggest fears is, losing his spot in the 7. If he loses his spot in the 7, he's fucked. And so, like, it kind of does kind of inform his actions, and it also kind of informs the cockiness in a way, where it's almost like he's covering for his ultimate fear by trying to pretend like it's not there and being a cocky prick and stuff. So
Right.
I agree with you, Kev. It's a shit or get off the pot moment for A-Train, and I wish they would allow him to really kind of do something, because it's a bit of a nothing burger at the moment. But
Yeah, and I mean, my question is somewhat answered already. Like, we already saw Nitro or whoever that other fast guy was, like, and Homelander was like, yeah, you're out, so we know something's happening.
But the Nitro thing makes, like, this is a bit of an aside, but the Nitro thing makes no fucking sense to me. It's like, why would you need a fast guy? Like, the 7 always has to have someone who goes fast? Like, fucking, what are you talking about?
I don't know. Stupid.
Whatever. It's a bit of a cul-de-sac.
I agree. I was like, oh, we got to have a speedster? Like, what's up with that?
That, like, superhero AT kind of has always rubbed me the wrong way, the fast guy.
Same.
Like, the only time I think I've seen it where it was really done well was Quicksilver in the X-Men movies. Like, the scene where, like...
Yeah, when they break Magneto out.
Yeah, when they break Magneto. Yeah, exactly. And they do the, like, Jim Croce time in a bottle sequence.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was quite enjoyable usage of the fast guy trope. But other than that, it just doesn't appeal to me. It's just silly.
Yeah, the fast guy trope seems like it very much seems like, the Stan Lees of the world sitting around a table in the 60s being like, what can we do? And it's like a very 60s-ish idea, which is just like...
What a guy that runs really fast.
Yeah. Whoa.
Cool. What else could he do? Nothing. I think that I get what you guys are saying. I think I like what DC's done with the Flash. I think creating the Speed Force and like that's a really interesting way to flesh out that power and that character. But yeah, I agree. The speeding thing is just sort of whatever.
Kev's at the end of his tank, ladies and gentlemen.
All right. So can we put this thing to death or...
I've got no more notes, so we should wrap it up.
Do we have any nuggets? Anybody?
I got no nuggets.
You don't have any?
Nope.
I had a couple little ones. I think the Patton Oswalt was sort of a nugget, but I don't know. It's kind of obvious. I thought it was cool that he would do a little bit part like that. I did have one other, and it was if you if you wanted to really nerd out, pause the show, look in the background as Huey walks out of the pawn shop for the first time. There is a poster on the wall featuring Liberty for a feminine hygiene product called Autumn Breeze.
A douche?
Yep.
Yes, that's amazing.
Right?
Wow.
Yeah, because when he walks through the pawn shop, you can see there's a lot of comic-related items, what have you. And that's one of the items up on the wall.
That's funny.
No kidding.
There's I think I do actually want to sneak a nugget in here where I saw somebody on Twitter, I think, sharing that he was watching the latest episode with his girlfriend, and as they were watching the scene where Annie and Huey are like walking up the escalator or whatever at the end of the episode where she basically breaks up with him, there's a girl in the background, an extra, who's pretending to eat a hot dog, and she just is like holding a hot dog but not actually eating it and just like faking it, and it's quite funny.
Nice. I love things like that.
I'm digging down deep in the bottom of the barrel when that's my nugget.
Why? That's a good nugget. Anyway, no ratings.
Nah.
Deaths.
Deaths, I got a Star Wars death. You had an ejection death.
God, I had a lot, and they were terrible grisly deaths as well. Ben had none.
I poked myself in the neck with the gom jabber when Chad said Rabin again.
Nice. That's right, you did.
Mispronouncing Beast Rabin.
Yeah. You said Beast Rabin, and then you corrected yourself and said, or Raban or whatever.
Whatever.
It was too late. The minute I heard Rabin, I was like, ugh!
I like it. With a gom jabber.
I had to kill myself with the gom jabbar to avoid doing that.
I want you to be called the gom jabber in at least one intro. It's too good.
Yeah. You want him to be called Gom Jabber in an intro? Is that a new name for Jarhigo?
Just once, maybe for the Dune episode or something.
Dude, you can't say something like that to me and then say, dude, only once.
That's true. It completely jumping back. I just love that Elizabeth Shue showed up, even if it was the fucking weirdest scene in the universe.
Yeah, that was super weird with the doppelganger.
It was nice to get an Elizabeth Shue cameo though. Like she was so great in season 1.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Can I finish my deaths?
Yep.
Of course.
Yes. Agree. Elizabeth Shue, great. I bitched about how she died and there was no more Shue in the first season. So I was happy to see her again for sure. And the whole breast milk thing was just
weird.
Next level weird.
So weird.
I had a Ben's death similar to Ben's. I died on a mispronunciation of Vought. And then a new category of death. I said a pun that was so egregiously bad that Chad wanted me to die. So that's now a thing. And then I ejected myself later on in the show when I noticed groundhogs were destroying my garden, and I was watching that and getting pissed. And then Chad had a Star Wars death. There you go. Anyway, in closing, I got a shout. I want to just remind everybody that the Rolling Stallones are releasing their new album on Tuesday, and it is I was able to preview it. We were able to preview it, and it was really good.
It's really good.
So check it out. It's really good. Check it out. It's a concept album, and that's all I'm going to say because I want you to be surprised. Go out and check it out. It's just damn good. Throw them some money. Buy the album. It's really good.
I concur.
Yeah, Chad concurs. That's all I got for shouts.
Yeah.
Ben concurs.
What do we got next
Go
week?
out and buy it. Zardoz commands it.
Zardoz commands it. Zardoz and his duckfish.
Next week, we're doing Reign of Fire.
Oh, dude.
Yes.
The best, worst dragon movie ever.
Christian Bale dragon movie.
Penic level 4.
They live on death and feed on ash. I can't wait.
I will see you later, or I will see you on another time.
There you go, man. So long, folks.
See ya.
That's going to wrap up this week's episode, folks. Thanks for tuning in so much. You can find the show notes for this episode in your podcast app of choice or at our website, ebd.fm/episodes/72. If you'd like to support the show, there's a couple great ways you can do that. As always, you can rate us and review us on the plethora of podcast platforms that are out there, Apple, Stitcher, whatever. Also, please think about giving us a review as well. A written review really goes a long way to getting more people to listen to the show. You can find us on all social media at EBD Podcast. Also, we're mostly on Instagram, a little bit on Facebook, but the conversations are mostly on Instagram, so please come over and join us. You can also make requests there, and we love chatting, and usually one of us is on, so jump in and join us. Thanks again for listening to the show. Hope you guys enjoyed this part 1 of The Boys, Season 2, and we'll see you on another time. Later. I forgot, on the Ice Pirates episode, I forgot to call you Garhigo.
Oh, no.
That would have
Perhaps
been
on the
great,
Zardoz episode, you should have called me Zarhigo.
Oh,
Whoa.
God damn it. That's so good. How could I?
Zardoz commands it.
I like how we're randomly about to fire up a Boys Season 2, and I ask you what you think, and then you think about a 6-week-old show and how you wish you did it differently.
After I was like, come on, let's go.
That's like when you think about a comeback to like somebody bullying you in school like 4 years later, and you're like, I should have said that. It's like a bit late, bro.
Yeah, it's a little Costanza, man.
Yeah.
Well, I slept with your wife. Anyway. Holy Jesus. Anyway.
So tell me, you two. Tell me what you think.
No, Ben was about to start to give his Penic level.